Are we all ready? Press is ready. Thumbs up.
Everybody is down?
Everybody's got volume? All right, well, first of all, I want to thank a number of the legislators that are here today. I want to thank the President of the Senate, Cameron Henry, the Speaker of the House, Philip DeVilliers, Senator Kirk Talbot. I see Rodney Shamahorn, Senator Reese, Representative Wiley, Senator Cloud, Jason DeWitt, Gabe Furman, Nikki Muscarella. Did we miss anyone? Oh, our Speaker, Pro Tem, Mike Johnson. Thank you so much. Oh, Representative Mellerin. Brian Glorioso. I want to say something. There are a couple of legislators here that truly represent the people by working to find common ground in ways in which we could balance this problem with high insurance costs. And I want to tell you that Brian Glorioso was one of them, and certainly Senator Mike Reese and Representative Mike Johnson have been just outstanding. You know, 50 days ago, I stood before the people of this state to address one of the most pressing issues Louisiana families are facing and struggling with, and that is the rising cost of insurance. The ever-growing outrageous cost of insurance impacts families from across many different insurance bills, because it's important to remember that when you talk to people out there, you say, do you think we have an insurance crisis problem? They all say, yeah, but they put many things into that insurance crisis bucket. Are they talking about the cost of health insurance? Are they talking about the cost of home or property insurance? Or are they talking about the cost of auto insurance? Last year, we worked extremely hard, and we attempted to address home and property insurance reform and some auto insurance reform. On a home and property front, we focused on a package of bills that insurance companies would promise would help to lower premiums. And it's important that they came to us last year with about 24 bills, let's say, and we worked through about 50% of them. And I was criticized for not taking the entire package. But yet my good friend in Florida, Ron DeSantis, took the whole package, and today Floridians are struggling, and today he and the legislature are trying to roll back some of those recommendations. Why? Because it prevented claimants, it prevented policyholders, it prevented citizens from access to our courts when insurance companies don't do the right thing. So I want you to know that our legislature last year did a responsible thing, and a thing that would help to work to lower premiums. And we're going to work on the property insurance side, partnering with both Senator Royce DePlessis and Senator Kirk Talbot, and working with our Fortified Roof program. But we also addressed other bills that that we were promised would help to lower auto insurance rates as well. In fact, we have now, in just 16 months, done more than any other governor in the history of this state when it comes to tort reform. And despite all of the bills that we did last year, insurance profits continue to go up, while the amount in people's pockets continues to go down. They promised us that we would see relief. They broke those promises. So this year we began to focus again on the painful cost of automobile insurance. And instead of passing laws that deal with just one side of the equation, we responded by taking a balanced approach that holds both sides accountable for the skyrocketing cost of insurance. Let me be clear. I believe both trial lawyers and insurance companies are responsible. And they are to blame for the pain our families are enduring in their pockets each and every month. In a recent industry-specific report that was commissioned by the legislature, tort reform recommendations were made that the industry promised would reduce rates. And as I stand before you today, in the very midst of this legislative session, I'm happy to report that more than a majority of those recommended reforms have now passed. And I'm still hopeful that by the end of the session, we will sign even more of those industry-specific recommendations that insurance companies asked for, and more importantly, predicted with lower rates. But that's not enough. Today, we will take an even greater step towards stopping frivolous lawsuits by signing additional tort reform measures, because in that stack of bills is bills that many business groups have called on for years to rein in lawsuit abuse. That package, this package and what we have done, is the largest tort reform package in the history of the state. Let me say this again. This package is the largest tort reform package and effort made in the history of this state. Today, in those bills, we go after frivolous lawsuits by using data that clearly shows the impact that lawsuit abuse has had on our insurance costs. The data tells us that we have the same number of accidents as the rest of the country. We pay to repair our cars in line with the rest of the country as well. We actually have less serious injuries than the rest of the country. It was a statistic that I found unusual, but true. However, our minor injury claims in car accidents are twice as much as the national average. This points to a cultural problem of frivolous litigation driven by lawyer advertising that leaves families with outrageous costs. 50 days ago, I vowed to end this. 50 days ago, I promised that I would sign into law a requirement that someone who sues over injuries sustained in an accident must prove that those injuries actually occurred in the accident. Today, I'm keeping that promise. 50 days ago, I promised that I would strengthen our uninsured motorist recovery law, or our no pay, no play law. Because uninsured motorists should not be allowed to reap huge rewards on lawsuits. They should not be allowed to cash in on general damages like emotional distress and pain and suffering. Today we prohibit uninsured motorists from collecting an award for bodily injury medical expenses for any amount below $100,000. This is a huge improvement on the $15,000 that was set before. And this is where we will sign Representative Jason DeWitt's House Bill 434 that reflects that promise and will become law. And I want you to know that this law was made better by folks who would work towards common ground. And again, I want to give a shout out to Representative Brian Glorioso as well. 50 days ago, I promised that we would prohibit illegal immigrants who drive on our streets from cashing in on frivolous lawsuits. Today, we keep that promise by signing House Bill 436 by Representative Gabe Furman, who would prohibit undocumented immigrants who are injured in car accidents from collecting general damages. In addition to these promises, I'm also signing a bill that business groups have clamored for many, many, many years. A modified comparative fault. I promised our business leaders that we would work with them to make this a reality. Today, we fulfill that promise. The comparative fault bill that we will sign prohibits drivers responsible for at least 51% of the accidents from receiving a damage award to cover their injuries. This piece of legislation was a hallmark of what businesses wanted, and it has eluded them until today. All of these reforms address the problem of frivolous and minor injury claims that drive up our citizens' insurance costs. But these bills are not enough. We also need to hold insurance companies accountable too. Today, we also say to our insurance companies, you will be held accountable to your policyholders and to our citizens as well. Looking at the data again, we see loss ratios, or the amount of money insurance companies collect versus the amount they pay out per dollar is better in Louisiana than it is in Texas and Florida, and more in line with Alabama and Mississippi and Arkansas. Simply put, insurance companies make more money in Louisiana than they do in other states, and that's wrong. A recent report issued by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners showed that Louisiana has the third highest underwriting profit in the country, the fourth lowest loss ratio nationally, and the fifth highest return on net worth in the entire country. To fix this, I will sign legislation that brings Louisiana in line with our southern neighbors and holds those insurance companies accountable for excessive rates. 50 days ago, I promised our commercial vehicle industry that if they put a dash cam in their vehicle, they would get a mandated discount. Today, I signed that bill into law. I want to thank Representative Jack McFarland as well, who worked extremely hard. This bill is a product of him and Representative Rodney Shamahorn, so that Louisiana commercial trucks will finally get some relief. After my signature today, we will now require a 5% premium discount for large trucks that maintain dash cameras on their trucks to record their movements and protect them from lawsuit abuse. Having an undisputed video camera evidence will reduce litigation, improve truck driver safety, and reduce the cost for everyone. 50 days ago, I promised to take a balanced approach by holding insurance companies accountable for high rates and to create the same type of transparency that they demand in our courtroom. I want to thank Senator Royce DePlessis for reaching across the aisle and working with us on that. Because today I'm signing a bill into law that gives the insurance department more authority to help control our rates. Our insurance department needs the power and the tools to be successful in fighting for our citizens. It is the insurance department's job to protect you, to protect our citizens when those who we pay premiums to break their promises and are bad actors. Today, we keep that promise by granting the insurance department greater authority to hold down rates. Texas, Mississippi, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, just to name a few, all grant their insurance department and commissioner that same power. Now, we bring Louisiana in line with our neighboring states. Our insurance department now has the power to protect our citizens. 50 days ago, I promised that I would sign a distracted driving bill and an anti-billboard advertising bill into law. Today, I renew that promise in front of these legislators that immediately, as soon as they can get those bills to my desk, we will sign them. The distracted driving bill will prohibit drivers from texting and interacting with social media while driving. Safer drivers means safer roads, means less accidents, which leads to lower lawsuits. The billboard advertising bills. These bills rein in obnoxious lawyer advertising and prohibits insurance companies from passing their advertising costs onto our Louisiana families. As I said before, I'm just as tired of seeing Morris Bart as I am of seeing the lizard. Over the past 50 days, the only side that I and those legislators who have supported these package of bills have chosen are the people. Our people are too good to be taken advantage of yet again and again. They're too good to have promises made and then promises broken. Today, we deliver on good promises. I will now invite those legislators who would like to come up as we complete this historic moment that many in our state have waited on for far too long, and to sign these bills into law. Afterwards, we will take questions. Come on, Jeff. Come on, Jeff. You're a big part of that. Did I call you out? I called you out. What you did. Okay, all right. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. Comparative fault. Jason DeWitt's bill. No pay, no play. This is Representative Furman's illegal immigration bill. The housing presumption bill. Rodney, this is the trucker bill. This is the one. It's a good bill. Jack didn't come. He should give you some extra appropriations just for that. Jeff Wiley, my man. Y'all can have as many of those pens as y'all want. Well, y'all want to stay up for the questioning, or y'all want to go back and see? Yeah. Hey, y'all take one. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Carter. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll take any questions that the press may have. We'll start right here. We'll go right to left, my right to left. Yeah.
So on this culture of frivolity that you speak of, is it only advertising that you attribute that to, or are there other elements that play there?
Look, I think that it's a continual pattern, and of course that culture can be rooted in that. I don't know that it's the only thing that has driven that particular culture. I think that we need to look towards jury reform and other measures, trying to encourage people to participate in the jury system. But there's no doubt that the impact of these tort reform bills and a combination of giving the insurance department the power to hold down excessive rates, in addition to tackling law advertising, I think that all of them are part and parcel of starting to bend that culture. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Governor. Realistically, what do you think the impact of these reforms will be? Typically, there are not guarantees from insurance companies that if you do this, the rates will go down by this percentage.
It's an interesting question. I know that there were several attempts, which were interesting, to put on mandated discounts based upon the reforms that we were making. I will tell you that in the legislative report, in the industry-specific report that I spoke about earlier, the industry, insurance industry actuarials, actually placed amounts that they believed would drive those premiums down based upon a specific tort action. And so I will tell you, we're going to pass a majority of those. And I think that based upon giving the insurance department the power to watch how expenses are laid out in the insurance companies, that we should see the premiums go down. I mean, everything they wanted, everything that was placed in this report done back in 2020, a vast majority, everything that they had demonstrable savings on, have now been passed. And so now it's up to them to make good on their promises. And that's why it was important to give the insurance department that power.
Is there a ballpark percentage that they
Look, I mean, if I look at right here, it's 6.5, 7. I mean, it should be at least 10%. I mean, some of these things have measurable savings, small savings, some 2%, 5%, 1%, 0.1%. Look, I think that we will watch. We will continuously watch, and we've already seen it. This is something that, you know, as we have discussed and debated this issue since it started 50 days ago and gaslighted our people, we have not really paid attention to the actual data. I remember as Attorney General, when I first came in as Attorney General, Louisiana was ranked in the top 5 of the judicial hellholes. When I became governor, it was ranked 7th. Today, we're 10th. I believe I will stand before you next year, and we will be out of the top 10. So we're running out of the excuse that we're not improving our litigation environment. And so based upon improving our litigation environment, we should see those savings passed on to the citizens. Yes, sir.
There was a push, Senator Royce Pless's bill, to make the role of the insurance commissioner appointed rather than elected. That failed in the Senate. Is that something that you support and would like to come back up?
Look, I think that as we go around and we, you know, what we see is people wanting to cherry pick different things that they see are happening in other states. And we've tried to take a broader approach and say, well, how many states have these particular things? Because if more states have them, then maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good fit for Louisiana. The argument out there is that 39 states actually appoint their insurance commissioner rather than elect them. That's a decision for the legislature.
Governor?
Yes, sir.
This morning you just signed a series of bills tackling auto insurance reform. There are still a few that are still pending in the legislature. Of those, are there any bills that if they don't end up on your desk by the end of the session, that you will call the legislators back in for a special session?
No, look, from what I've been told by the leadership, they believe that they will address those that were on this list. I think that we will get, and I'm hopeful that we will get to a medical transparency bill. I'm very hopeful. But certainly I see no need to have to call them into a session over one or two particular measures. Certainly we should at least take enough time to watch to see if the ones that we have already made have an impact on premiums. Look, the problem is that many have sold our citizens that there is some magic bullet out there, that it is some one piece of legislation that simply will automatically lower those rates. And what we see is that unless we use data-driven evidence to then adjust the policies of the state, it doesn't work. And it leaves our people with a tremendous amount of empty, broken promises. So I'm very hopeful that they'll get the distracted driving bill, a medical transparency bill, a lawyer advertising bill to my desk. And again, even without those, this is very important. Even without those additional measures, we still have signed into law in 16 months the largest tort reform package in the history of this state. I have the statistics, governor by governor. In 16 months, we've done more than governors have done in 1 or 2, or in Edwards' case, 4 terms. Meaning Edward. Yes, Tyler?
Governor, you've talked a lot about the gains that the businesses achieved with the signing of these bills, and yet business is not represented here. And I know insurance companies have met with you privately in the last few days saying that the signing of HB 148 by Wiley will outweigh the negative effects of that, will outweigh all the benefits from these bills. And you got a letter on that yesterday. from the mutual insurance companies. So why aren't you taking that into account in the thinking and the things you've said to us today?
Because look, I take it into account about as much as my good friends from CBS told the governor from Arkansas that they were moving out of the state of Arkansas. Okay? I think it's a lot of scare tactics. I don't know why no insurance company has been able. I've met with them and I said, bring me how the law that I'm signing is any different from what Mississippi, Arkansas, Florida, South Carolina, from any of our neighboring southern states is. Tyler, look, one of the things that we did was we charted the rising cost of auto insurance rates from 1990 through 2000 through the current 2024. And what we noticed was there was a inflection point at 2008 when we took away the power of the insurance department to more heavily regulate the insurance market. We took away the power that other states have continued to have. And what we saw an increase from 1990 to 2008 of $33 a year. From 2008 to today, it was $110 a year. And so again, I've committed to work with insurance companies to make sure that they have healthy profits, but that they're not grossly increasing those rates after the promises that we made and we've kept, and they've told us would lower the rates.
And a quick follow-up, if I may. Commissioner Temple has complained about the bill, also the same bill. You have said publicly that if rates don't go down, you would blame the commissioner. How long would you wait until you would get to that point?
Look, I'm not blaming the commissioner. I don't know what he's talking about. I think it's important for everyone to recognize there are 2,600 sections of the insurance code. You know how many times the governor's mentioned in the insurance code? Twice, exactly. It is the insurance commissioner's job to protect the citizens of this state. Today, we give him the power, and we give that department the power that our neighboring southern states have to do that job. It's easy to do a job and not have the power and then to just make the excuse, well, I don't have the ability to do it. It's another thing to be able to wield that power and to be able to do it in a fashion that other southern states have been able to do. When you look at the loss ratios of those southern states and you compare them to Louisiana, we are on par. And so the only outlier out there is the ability to more regulate a product that the government mandates we have. That's extremely important. We hear all of this free market, open market excuse, but insurance is not a free market. The government mandates that people have them. If we mandate a product is purchased, then the government has the ability and the responsibility to ensure that the playing field is level.
So how long might you
Yes,
wait?
ma'am.
Hi, according to a University of Alabama study, if every impacted home in Mobile and Baldwin counties, the coastal counties in Alabama, had met the fortified roof standards, insurance companies could have spent 75% less in payouts, saving $112 million, and policyholders could pay 65% less in deductibles, saving almost $35 million, according to the study. Any chance you're going to raise the funding for fortified roofs in the state or tax credits and deductions?
I am absolutely committed. As soon as we finish this package of bills, we're going right back to work. And we're going to focus on property insurance as well. I've already had a lengthy discussion with Senator Talbot and Senator Royce DePlessis. What is amazing to me is that there are people on the coast that don't even know what a fortified roof program is. They do not even know that discounts are available, steep discounts. We are going to be working to inform our citizens about it and to be able to shore up those particular programs. I think that Alabama has proven that when you improve the structure, you can lower the premium, thereby saving everyone. And in addition to that, it's important to remember that what they tell me, I want the press, this is what they tell me, is that when a critical mass of structures in a given geographical area have fortified protections, then premiums as a whole go down, right? It's like a high tide that raises all boats.
We have time for one final question, if anyone has one.
Yes, ma'am.
If we might be able to go off topic for a second, do you have any comment on the New Orleans inmate escapes or their capture so far?
Last time I checked, we're 8 for 10. We got 2 more left. I said we were going to get them. I want to thank all of the men and women who have been working constantly since that time, 24/7, to hunt down these fugitives. We said that we would get them. We've got 8 out of 10. I feel very confident that we'll pick up the other 2 here shortly, I'm hoping. And I know the Attorney General is doing an investigation on exactly how they escaped. She's made some arrests in relation to that investigation as well. I think that it shows some structural problems in New Orleans' criminal justice system. I don't think you can blame just the sheriff, but I think that the entire system over there could use a restructuring. We pointed that out a week or so ago in a press conference, and I'm hopeful that we can get the last 2 fugitives and bring them in safely. You had a question, ma'am? Okay. All right, thank you.